good move by Jett.
Pivotal round in this championship starts now. Projectors around, so fun to watch. Now the challenge from Lawrence. How about Lawrence?
Look at that, man. Sportsmanship amongst his peers. I love it.
Yeah, welcome to another episode. It's SMX Insider and the Jasons, Wygant and Thomas. Two different stories coming out of two classes with Monster Energy AMA Supercross and the SMX World Championship in Birmingham, JT. We were both there. I feel for the first time, the 450 class may not be chaotic anymore. I am starting to hear some key people, including Cooper Webb, starting to acknowledge that maybe this whole thing is just Jett Lawrence is really good and that's all that's really happening here.
Yeah, I think they have come to a realization that this kid's going to figure things out. And I think they were hoping that there was a window to mistakes. You know, he had made a couple of critical mistakes. Look back at San Diego, Anaheim 2, San Francisco wasn't very good. Then Arlington kind of backed that up. But recently he's kind of gotten it together and starting to learn. And that, I think, is the scary thing for these guys, is he is learning from mistakes and he's starting to put the whole package together.
But in the meantime, the 250 class, anybody hear any Haiden Deegan news during the week? It is out of control. And now it leaves Tom Vialle. Tom Vialle was down in practice at Arlington after being down in the first turn at Detroit. I thought his season might be over. Now he's the hottest property in the series. But it's still not enough data, I don't think, to guarantee that he's going to dominate. I still think we don't know what we have in this class.
Yeah, it still feels very wide open to me. You know, Tom Vialle has improved, no question about it. But is he going to now run away with the series because he's got 2 wins in the red plate? I'm not quite there yet. I think Cameron McAdoo and Haiden Deegan and a few of these other guys still have something to say about that.
Okay, so that's what's going to make this so interesting. Jett tries to keep it going, but into a Triple Crown this weekend, and we'll have some data on that coming up. But we also want to talk about this 250 class, not only Deegan's wild night and Vialle's win, but the renaissance in both East and West for the mighty Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki team. So we're going to chat with Mitch Payton, the Mitch Payton, on today's show. Well, this is great. We're joined by the legendary Mitch Payton, who we should probably interview more now that I think about it. And now I know you have the technology to do it. So you can't hide any longer. We're going to do this more. Hey, this has been an awesome season for you. Obviously, the Austin Forkner news is a crusher, but you're in contention for both titles, East and West. Is there anything you can point to why things are going so well or better this year, or are you just finally getting some luck back on your side?
I think more than anything, like, I feel like it's more of the guys. The guys are riding really well, and they haven't been like, you know, they came in kind of injury free and a lot healthier. You know, the bike has got better. It got better last year, and we continued to evolve that a little bit. So I feel like the platform we have is really good, both engine-wise, chassis, suspension, just everything. Like if we've had a few different riders that have, well, a couple that have tried that have rode some other stuff, and they were pretty amazed at it. So, like, makes me feel good, and I think the riders are really happy. But I think I still give most of the credit to them.
Cameron McAdoo and Seth Hamaker have both had back-to-back great races here, and they're kind of magnets for each other on the racetrack a little bit. Do you think there's anything from, you know, practicing together a lot, spending a lot of time together? You know, their pace seems almost identical. And once they get locked together, their pace is high, which has got them on the podium. But, man, they're almost inseparable the last few weeks.
I think that's just luck. Like, I mean, I don't know, you know, like, I don't believe in some of those type of things. Like, I believe, you know, Cameron and Seth are riding really well. And you know, they're this far away from a couple of wins. So, like, basically what we have to do is turn, you know, the start in the heat race or the start in that LCQ, that needs to come in the main event.
Hey, if let's say McAdoo or Hamaker pull it off in the East, you go pretty far back with these guys, especially Seth, because he was even Team Green as an amateur, but you've had Cameron around for a while. I want to first ask your reaction to the unfortunate news of Forkner, and then what would it mean if you got one of these loyal guys who had been with you for a while and they finally got to the top of that mountain? I know that was the hope with Austin, but would it mean a little more if a guy like that gets it done? Because you definitely know how big a hole you can get into and how quickly.
Well, you know, like well, it would certainly mean a lot, but I really got to tell you, and maybe some people didn't, but I wouldn't have hired Cameron if I didn't think he could win a race. or win a series. So like, I do expect him to, you know. Did it happen last year? No. Could it happen this year? Yes. And Seth, you know, like, I really want that kid to succeed. That's just me personally, you know, like both of them. So like, I'm behind them 110%. As far as anything I can do for them, I want them to achieve their goal. And they both are hardworking individuals. They're, you know, they don't jack around a lot. They want to race their motorcycle and achieve goals. And I think that's awesome. The Austin situation was really sad. You know, it sucks because we have, you know, everybody's going to say, well, you've been there before with him and all this kind of stuff. But I really felt like this year, he kind of turned it around and was in a more solid, disciplined spot. You know, he's been working with Rhino. Rhino has made a pretty big difference in how he's going about stuff. And truthfully, the two of them have I felt like turned it around, and I really felt like, I don't think he was riding over his head. I don't think he was pushing the edge, you know, like where in the past he was always sort of edgy, you know, like, oh, you'd see a lot of those. And I felt like he was pretty damn good, you know, and it's just, he missed that one jump, you know, and it's the price you pay, and he'll be okay. He'll come back from it.
All right, that's what we like to hear. Yeah, you've definitely been through the ringer with your team as well. So good luck. It would be really cool. I think you probably never thought we'd get to the point where people were rooting for you, because I think you were winning so much, but I think we might be at that point. I think it'd be really cool if you get one of these. So we'll see how it turns out, right?
And the reason to root for them, you know, is I think they're pretty good guys, you know, like I'm not a fan of the jerk factor. So I think they're all pretty awesome guys.
Yeah, we agree. They're definitely down-to-earth guys over there. All right, thanks for the time, Mitch, and we'll see you at Indy. 30-second board. We have a lot of topics to hit this weekend, starting with Friday. Since we were racing in Birmingham, I think the Supercross set for the first time ever got to go to the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Most motorcycles under one roof in the world, 1,800 plus motorcycles. I hung out with Malcolm Stewart there. And then we also had the Liqui Beta team hanging out. That was Benny Bloss and Colt Nichols. The museum is awesome. We go back and race there again. You have to go on Friday if you're a fan. And for the Beta team, JT, a solid weekend. They finally have both of their riders in competition.
Yeah, this is cool. This place looks incredibly impressive. And what a way to welcome Colt Nichols back to racing. But you can see there from the clips, there are so many different stages of motorcycles and development. And I think it was a kind of an eye-opening experience for both of those two.
No doubt. Look at this. Now, I don't know if this is the way many brides would draw this up, JT, but we had a proposal on Race Day Live, witnessed by none other than Aaron Plessinger and our man Lurch.
Yeah, this is awesome. These guys can do it all. I don't think there is a task you could hand Lurch that he would not excel at, and it would appear matrimony is high on that list as well. Yeah,
and of course, the very fun Aaron Plessinger, who's just absolutely the people's champion. But there's another championship we want to talk about that took place over in Europe, and a champion there performing well.
Yeah, Jorge Prado, we got a little taste of what he can do in Monster Energy Supercross this January, but now he's back. He's the defending champion in MXGP, and they were down in Argentina for the opening round, and I wondered, would we see a little bit of a late start? Would he a slow start, I should say, for this MXGP series? But he had none of that. Came out, won the opener, and really left off right where he left the 2023 championship, and you know, showing everybody why he's got that #1 plate on his bike.
All right, so good start to that World Championship there for Jorge Prado. But we have our own SMX World Championship coming up in September. We did announce the locations last weekend. We will return to ZMAX Dragway in Charlotte for the opener, and then we go to Texas Motor Speedway for the first time, and then we're finally back with a race in Las Vegas that I know the industry and the racers, everybody wants this real bad. And I think it's also going to help that the riders have some idea of what they're in for these playoff rounds. I remember seeing RJ Hampshire, to name one, at Charlotte, and he was totally surprised and caught off guard of what the playoff tracks were going to be like. So we'll see if they're a little more prepared this year. And I think now that they know, the riders are happy because they at least have an expectation. For example, let's hear Cooper Webb's thoughts once he found out where these races would take place.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked with the Charlotte playoff race. It'll be sweet. Had a lot of fun there last year, great turnout, so looking forward to that. And it was cool. All the venues seem really cool and excited for those.
Yeah, and I think Cooper Webb wants another shot at that. It was not an overwhelming performance last year in those playoffs, and he's riding much better, to be fair. So I think he wants another shot at it. And speaking of another shot at it, he almost had a wild ride this weekend. Still a great performance, second place on the night. But you look at that first lap, and this was oh so close to a disaster. Thankfully, everybody was okay. But you have to wonder, did this rattle Webb a little bit? You know, those early laps where Jett Lawrence is just scrambling to try to build a lead, did that affect the overall race? Did that affect anything in Webb's performance? Was he trying to kind of regroup on that first lap instead of really trying to narrow down on Jett Lawrence's lead?
I was definitely worried, well, first of all, for the health and safety of the Monster Girl. She was okay, uninjured. But yes, I was worried that on the podium that Webb was going to say my whole goal was to stick to Jett Lawrence's rear fender, and that cost me. But he didn't use that. Either he doesn't believe it or he didn't want to use it as an excuse. Were you surprised that he didn't use that?
No, because he's a veteran and a professional, and I think he understood that he had an entire race after that. You know, they had gone, what, half a lap, and Jett Lawrence had a 4-second lead maximum throughout the entire event. So if he was going to catch him, if he was going to close it down and beat Jett Lawrence, I think he understands that he had every opportunity to it, and kudos to him for not making that an excuse.
So let's go to Tom Vialle here. Actually, it was my broadcast colleague, Ricky Carmichael, that said this track still didn't have whoops, so it was more of a Supercross than Daytona, but he feels like the last piece is to do it on a track with real whoops. And I think you, not the whoops thing, but in general, are not 100% sold that like this is going to be a Vialle domination run from here on out. You're not sure there yet?
You know, I think he's definitely improved. There's no question about that. You look at the Arlington round where he got third on a true Supercross track. I think he will be in podium contention week in and week out. I just don't know if a very wet and difficult Daytona track followed up by a rain-influenced on Friday Birmingham track with no Supercross whoops is the exact barometer we want to use for how the rest of this championship will go.
I will say this, though. This 250 East has been in a search for consistency. He's the only, I guess you could say, championship-proven rider because he has 2 MX2 world titles. I know it's different because it's motocross, but to me that makes him a little more of a threat. But yeah, I don't know if we've seen the best from a lot of guys in that series so far. And speaking of that, we have not seen Haiden Deegan's best in a variety of ways. The results on the track, honestly, outside of the one win, no podiums, and just total chaos. And I know what everyone wants to talk about here, this first turn crash, which ignited a terrible night off the track for him as well. Okay, JT, as a racer, is this disrespectful? First, he throws Hamaker's bike down, then he goes to his pit and yells at him. He was fined $1,000 for this. What's your take as a racer with this behavior?
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at this. And I think we have to go back to Detroit and think about that first turn crash that really Hamaker was the catalyst for, which set Deegan back in this championship. And I think, I don't know if there's hard feelings there, but I know that Deegan's looking at that crash going, Hamaker started this. This is why I'm down in points going into this round. He's runs into the wall and he looks up and he sees Hamaker's bike again in the first corner. So I think that triggered some emotion that maybe he should have handled better. I would say he definitely should have handled it better. But yes, going over, after the race, yelling and things, I don't think any of that's appropriate. Then you look at the event with Cody Schock. I know Cody Schock was frustrated that he felt like that Deegan had the pass made and he didn't need to initiate contact there. So it's really more, there's a multitude of events here where it doesn't seem like Haiden Deegan is handling the moment very well. You wonder if the pressure's getting to him, being in the spotlight's getting to him, or is it simply him being a kid and a lot of things being thrown at him all at once? The big thing here will be, how does he handle it moving forward? Can he talk with his dad? Can he talk with his team and settle things down? Because he's 12 points down in a championship that he could win. He could get right back into this thing, but if he lets this continue on and build momentum in the wrong direction, he's certainly not going to win anything going into this Pro Motocross Championship and, of course, the SMX playoffs as well.
I want to make it clear, though, you said this, you don't think the pass on Schock by itself was egregious.
Well, I don't know why he necessarily felt a reason to go out and make hard contact, because I think he had the inside covered, and that was Cody Schock's point as well. It's like, I went too far outside. You had the inside. The pass was already made. Why did you feel it necessary to make contact on top of that? In the moment, it's racing. But yeah, unfortunately, Cody Schock got hurt, and I think that's why it made this so much worse, is that Cody Schock did suffer an injury.
Here's Schock's own thoughts on it from his social.
Daytona had put a hairline fracture in my collarbone, and it was healing. And then last night, the whole incident that I had in the main event solidified everything and fully broke the collarbone, and it's laying on top of each other now. So sucks, but I'm here in Southern California, and I'm looking to get surgery tomorrow and start the recovery process. So
that is a wild night for sure, from the very first lap to the very last lap of the night show. But if you want to know how to handle yourself, just break this down. You got to talk to Max Anstey in the most heartbreaking moment that a racer can have, and he was all class there.
Yeah, you could feel the emotion, and there were so many things that I think he wanted to say and express what he was feeling. But again, yes, I think he did the right thing. He gave so much credit to his team for working so hard, because no one can anticipate when something's going to fail in an engine. There's, thousands of moving parts, and motorcycles break. That's what happens if you race for long enough. He understands that. And I thought that he showed a lot of composure in the moment when it would have been very easy to not do that. So kudos to Max Anstey. I tried to get the point across, like, hey, this championship's not over. The results have been all over the place. Look at Haiden Deegan's night. Look at some of these other guys haven't had their best races. He didn't want to hear that at all in the moment, which I understand. But I do think we'll see him come back with a vengeance here very soon.
Speaking of emotion, you and I know the team owner for Max Squad, Yariv Konski, on a personal level. The guy is always emotional. The guy's always on the verge of tears. He's so into this sport. So somewhat predictably, he was pretty much in tears. He apologized for the bike failure that could cost his team a championship. Here's a quick snippet from his social media.
I feel like, we've let our fans and sponsors and Max down. My riders they're everything to me. They come first. And I just feel like I owe it to everyone to say something, because I don't want anyone to think it's any one of our mechanics, technicians, people involved in our program, because it's not. It was an OEM part that runs in our practice bike failed.
All right, that is tough. That's been the story we've been telling all year. 4 or 5 employees in a very low budget trying to beat the factory teams. And for the moment, it looks like they're now not going to be able to do that. On the bright side, for a smaller new team in the pits, about Triumph. Okay, they didn't get the podium out of Jalek Swallow. He's running third. He tipped over. But I was talking to Bobby Hewitt, who's the team principal over there. I don't think the result to me on paper even matters for this team. The point is, they just need to show that they know what they're doing and that they're capable and they have potential. And I feel like they're doing that.
Yeah, I think Jalek's ridden really well, but I've been more impressed by the motorcycle itself, to be honest. In this class, as competitive as it is, and you've watched the likes of Mitch Payton and these other teams chase that Yamaha that everybody knows has been so powerful, and then you watch a rider like Jalek Swole come in and be competitive right away, grabbing hole shots, running up front. Doesn't seem like he's at any disadvantage whatsoever. If anything, they've been up front on the starts more times than not. So I think it's been a wildly impressive debut in a class that it's all about performance, and they've shown that they have that right out of the gate. So kudos to them. And speaking of another rider that's always great right out of the gate, Justin Cooper is really coming on here. And for me, that ride at Anaheim 2, or excuse me, the qualifying at Anaheim 2, where he showed he had the pace, that was the defining moment. And ever since then, he's been steadily improving and showing that he can battle with these guys. And I think this race in Birmingham was another step. He stayed in the top 5 the entire race. He battled back and forth with Chase Sexton, as you're seeing there. And he's really not giving these guys an inch. And to become one of the 450 elite, you have to, week in and week out, show them that you belong there. And I think he's well on his way.
I think he just needed to believe it himself. I've said this over and over. Justin Cooper has always been underrated. He's been good since the day he turned pro in the 250 class. He's battled for titles and podiums every single year and every single week. There should have been more hype. He shouldn't be considered like, oh, I can't believe he's doing good. This shouldn't be a surprise. The opposite is true with Ken Roczen, right? Like every time Roczen hits the racetrack, you expect that he could win. This is a guy that at 15 years old had the mark on him as a guy that could win races. I still feel like we're in that Roczen stage of the career where we're just not going to get it every week. I mean, he was fantastic at Birmingham. He looked so good passing Chase Sexton, as you can see, passing Cooper, pulling away from Eli Tomac, you name it. But I just don't know if we're going to see this all the time. But we are going to Indy. He was great there last year.
Yeah, and you just have to wonder what could have been. You think about that race in San Diego when he looked like he was on his way to run away with that win, crashes, and you're right, it's just the off weekends that are really killing him. The weekends where he's on, he can race with anybody, he can beat anybody. It's the weekends where he's not. You can't get a 10th or a 12th in this series, not past the halfway point. You can't have those off weekends anymore if you want to hang around in this championship. And unfortunately, you've seen him fall off the back of that championship chase because of that.
Anybody else? Anybody else in that category right now, JT? Any names come to mind?
Unfortunately, yes. Jumping to Eli Tomac, it's not going well, right? We saw signs of life. You look at Arlington, you look at Daytona, it looked like he was ready to fight for this thing. And I don't know how to paint the Birmingham main event as anything other than uninspired. You know, he didn't get the start, which, you know, after coming off that heat race, I'm like, here we go. Gets a bad start. I was waiting to see if he could fight forward. You know, you could point to Justin Barcia and following him for 10 laps or whatever it was as the reason why he couldn't move forward. But I think this is critical. This pass by Jason Anderson late in the race, that is just not something we're expecting to see from Eli Tomac in a championship run year. And I just think it spoke to where he was mentally. He was probably really just taken aback by the bad start and all the things he had been doing to move forward. Felt like it really got undone in one main event in Alabama.
Yeah, I agree. The 2-2 finishes coming in. We still were giving him the mulligan a little bit at Daytona because he just didn't jump that quad. Maybe he was still fast enough to win races. The heat looked good. Yeah, I feel like getting stuck behind Barcia. He just let that affect his race too much, and now it's 26 points back for him. And that's uh-oh for everybody because, as we said at the very top of this show, I think the field, not just the riders, but the other teams are starting to realize, man, even if we sort our stuff out, this kid is just legitimately good. He's going to be hard to beat, and now he's not making mistakes. I think it's, what, 13 points over Webb? That's not a lot of points, but I think it's more than just points. This isn't math, JT. This is the eye test. They see how well he's riding and how hard he's going to be to beat now.
Yeah, I think the prevailing argument was that he's going to make mistakes, he's going to leave the door open, and we will capitalize. Well, he's not doing that as of late, and if he figures that part of the game out where he can ride within his own limits and he doesn't have to push the envelope to win, I don't really know where they will find some sort of weakness in his game anymore. That's really been it. That's all they've had to hold on to because it's not pace, it's not starts, it's not, you know, the racecraft side of it. I think they're running out of possibilities of how to dethrone this kid who is, let's face it, he is brand new to this 450 Supercross class, and he looks ready to take off with it already.
There's one small possibility. Look what we got coming up format-wise this weekend.
Yeah, Triple Crown to me is the best format we have to offer. Now, I know it's hard to sustain and it's really difficult for the teams to pull off. I don't think we should forever abandon the 20 minutes plus a lap format, but this is a great way to change things up. You get 6 races of full action across the night between both classes versus just those main events where everything seems to come down to. So I love them. You know, I think it really does add a different flavor to the series. And for guys who maybe had a bad weekend or things haven't been trending their way, they can look to this round and say, okay, this is where I'm going to get it back, right? The great starters can really find a way to capitalize on that and just use those 3 races to get a good overall result.
One more piece. Break down this Yamaha track map for us from our upcoming race at Indy.
Well, Indy has, you know, soft dirt, right? We're in March. We've had some inclement weather, but it's a little bit different. You think about what like Detroit looked like. I don't think it's going to be exactly that, but it will be rough and treacherous in the main events, and guys are just going to have to put in consistent laps. So I think these tracks are great. You get some hard pack, you get some soft dirt, and it truly makes it feel like a World Supercross Championship. You're getting everything thrown at you. So some people would say, like, do ruts really change things? I say yes, they do, and for the good. I think it really tests the best riders in the world.
This means if Tom Vialle wins again this weekend, we're going to say, well, he did it at a muddy Daytona and a muddy Birmingham and a rutted Indy. I mean, the whoops might not hold up. So we'll continue to guess, probably even past this weekend's race.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes, right? If you're on one side of an argument, you'll always find evidence to support it.
SMX Facts time. Let's bring Clinton Fowler in with some stats. Well, we're here. We've entered the second half of the season, and there's starting to be some Jett Lawrence is taking control of the championship buzz, which is only surprising because he's a rookie, not because he's Jett. We kind of knew he'd be good. But let's compare this to some other rookie championships we've seen. What does the data show?
Yeah, Weech. I mean, you got Jeremy McGrath, who won in 1993 as a rookie. You got Ryan Dungey in 2010, who won as a rookie. Pretty comparative, guys. It's amazing. Jett's got a 13-point lead. McGrath had it nine rounds in, had a 17-point lead over Mike Kwiatkowski. Dungey had a 20-point lead over Ryan Villapoto. So on the points perspective, pretty close. And JT, the other stuff, wins. Jett's got 4, MC had 5, Dungey had 3, so kind of the same. Podiums, McGrath and Dungey each had 6. And Jett's got 5. So like these guys, it's a pretty comparative season to 2 impressive rookie years with McGrath and Dungey. And it does seem, JT, like we're looking at a potential 3rd Premier Class rookie champion.
Yeah, and the scary part is I think Jett is just starting to kind of figure things out. You know, you look at the mistakes, and I guess you could point to some of the mud races too as a catalyst for that, but it's calmed down a little bit in recent weeks, and it looks like Jett is on his way to taking the next step in his 450 career.
Okay, there is one more obstacle coming his way, though. We won't have a mud race with the Dome in Indy, but we will have a Triple Crown. And this just comes to mind from the 250 days to me, Clinton. First of all, Jett was struggling in Triple Crowns for a while. It wasn't good at the 450 Triple Crown earlier this year at Anaheim. So what are you thinking for Triple Crown?
Yeah, I mean, and he knew it too, right? At the end of that 250 career, he called it out when he finally won that last opportunity he had on the Triple Crown. So, but it didn't go particularly great for him in the first one at Anaheim 2 this year, right? Out of those 3 races, he had crashes in 2 of them. He had that crash right out of the first turn in the first one. Maybe the more consequential one was the crash at the end of the 3rd race. It dropped him from 2nd to 6th in the points, cost him, or 6th in the standings, cost him 6 points. So clearly Triple Crowns have been a little bit of kryptonite here, JT, but man, it does seem like he's matured a bit since then.
Yeah, for me, it's all about the start and the first lap positioning. You look at every time he's gotten into trouble, it's been first turn crashes. The Arlington a couple of years ago in the Triple Crowns, he kept crashing on the first lap, even when he got good starts. So to me, whether it's a mental thing or a physical thing, if he can get a good start and get around the first lap without any sort of chaos, I think he's going to be just fine. And I think him finally getting over that hurdle last year was proof that he can do it.
Let's look at some other Triple Crown stats. Now, me personally, I feel like it doesn't even mean that much. We've historically said that Eli Tomac is really good in Triple Crowns, and I've said, yeah, well, since we started Triple Crowns, Eli Tomac's been really good in everything. So, of course, he's good in Triple Crowns. Same thing with Chase Sexton. But these guys need some hope right now. So give it to him, Clinton. Give us some data to show who's good at this particular format.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Most all of the title contenders, with the exception of Jett, have kind of a reason to believe from the stats perspective. Eli's raced every single one of them. He's won nearly half of them. He's won 7 of the 15. That's particularly impressive. Cooper Webb's won 4 of the 15 Triple Crowns we've ever done. He obviously won the Anaheim 2-1, didn't even win a single race and took that victory. So those guys have it. Chase Sexton was last year's Triple Crown champion. I mean, God, Ken Roczen in 2020. Glendale's the only guy to ever sweep it. And even Jason Anderson, he's got a Triple Crown race win in 3 of the last 4 races. So I feel like every one of these guys going into Indianapolis has a reason to believe.
They better do it soon. Jett's just getting faster and stronger and more confident. So if these guys want wins, guys like Tomac and Anderson who have not gotten one yet this year, this could be their best chance. This will be fun to watch, Clinton.
I'm looking forward to it, guys.
So now we're off to Indianapolis. That'll be East Coast time. Watch Race Day Live starting at 1:30 Eastern and the racing at 7 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. You can watch on Peacock or outside the United States on the SMX Video Pass. And speaking of that, continue to upgrade the program for our Spanish broadcast. Had a camera in there with Edgar and Tommy for the first time at the coverage from Birmingham. Whether you speak Spanish or not, enjoy this clip of what it looked and sounded like.
Y mira, algo interesante, Tommy, es que todavía Eli Tomac no ha ganado y está ahí cerquita del tope de los puntos, así que cualquier cosa puede suceder el día de hoy en esta octava fecha. Pero no solamente eso, el drama que se ha desatado entre Eli Tomac y Jett Lawrence, que siguen hablando en las redes sociales, hoy se puede decidir ya de un punto que Jett Lawrence podría ser el meromero de esta categoría, ¿no?
Estoy de acuerdo, pero para que eso no pase, estos pilotos como Cooper Webb, Chase Sexton y Eli Tomac ya tienen que empezar a arriesgar la consistencia por las victorias.
All right, those guys are having a really good time, and we enjoy having them in our meetings during the week, especially Edgar. He is so pumped on this sport, so it's really fun. And what's not to enjoy? We're going to Indy, which is an unpredictable track because of the conditions, and a Triple Crown, JT. So maybe some surprises in store?
Let's hope so, right? I do believe that Jett is in the captain seat for this championship. I think everybody's looking at him to kind of lead the way. But if he does make a mistake, if he does slip up in these Triple Crowns, which have caught him out before, we know that, I think everybody's going to be looking to pounce. So watch for Jett, watch for and see if he can keep that composure.
All right. That was such a popular win for Roczen last year. Indy fans are probably hoping for the same, maybe for Tomac. We'll find out on Saturday. Join us in Indy.